Parents, welcome to another episode of The Journey, a podcast intended to educate, equip, and entertain you as we talk about important issues facing our families. PCA is a Christ-centered, biblically based, and family-focused community of committed believers doing life together. We hope the information you hear on this podcast informs and inspires you to be a better parent. Welcome to The Journey.
Hey parents, this is Dan Panetti. We're at the Journey podcast, and I've got Seven Trogdon, who's now a sophomore, because the last time we talked to you, you were a freshman, right? We had you
freshie, yes.
and Biz and Emerson, and you guys kind of gave us your perspective on what it was like to be at PCA, and so thank you so much for that. But today we're going to talk about the Biblical Worldview Conference and all things to kind of get our parents ready, our students ready, everybody ready for the conference, which is just in actually a few days, a couple of weeks, right around the corner. And so you had some questions that we wanted to make sure that our parents knew the answer to. And since I've been here a long time, I thought, you know what, if you ask the questions, I'll answer them. We'll have a conversation about the conference and see if we can better inform our community about what the Biblical Worldview Conference is. So, Seven, start with your questions.
Okay, so, Mr. Panetti, could you tell me about the history of the Biblical Worldview Conference?
I can, yes. So when I came here to PCA, there was some great worldview training that was happening, right? This was about 2003, 2004. Okay, were you born yet?
Nope.
Okay, so before you were born, and it was actually really, really neat. The reason that I came to PCA was because of the biblical worldview training that was happening in the school. But I just remember coming into the school, and Kirby Anderson had a ministry called Probe Ministries, and they would do worldview training for students. And so I came in and I watched it, and I was like, that is really cool. Like, that's so neat that the students at PCA get to be trained by Kirby, by Probe Ministries, and some of the amazing things that they did. But I thought, you know what, we can do this better, and we can do more of it, and we can bring other people in and not just have Kirby Anderson do all the training. And so I got put on the committee that helped develop the Biblical Worldview Institute, as we call it then, now the Biblical Worldview Conference. And as we went through, right, I began to look for people that were Christian leaders on particular issues. One of my favorites back in the day, I made a friend. His name was Jason Ilian, and he had just released a book about Christians dealing with the issue of MySpace. Have you even ever heard of MySpace?
I've heard the name before. I don't know what it is.
So it was like the first social media platform. Right, so before Instagram, before Facebook, was a thing called MySpace, and he wrote a book about this and how Christians should navigate, MySpace and all these different things. And so we brought him in, and then I brought in a friend named Mike Johnson, and he talked about how Christians should look at politics. And does the name Mike Johnson ring a bell at all? Well, the cool thing is, right, he was a friend of mine for years, and we had kind of gone through a lot of things together, just kind of two Christian attorneys trying to, take on the world. Well, later he ran for office and got elected, and he is now a congressman from Louisiana, but most recently he got to be put in as the Speaker of the House. And so the Speaker of the House, who's currently the speaker, right, has been to our Biblical Worldview Conference and spoken to our students in the past. And so it was just one of those things where that was kind of what we did. We brought in great people. And then I was like, you know what, this isn't just good for PCA students, but why can't we open this up to other schools, right? Other, students in other schools to come as well. And so I remember saying, the way we need to put this on the map is we need to have a debate. And so when I was at UT Law, I had brought in a guy named Dinesh D'Souza, and he had done something for me there. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, would you be willing to come in and do a debate? And so I found an atheist named Dan Barker, who used to be a minister in Wisconsin, and he had left the faith, and now he was an atheist. And so I had Dinesh D'Souza and Dan Barker do a debate. And we brought in all these other Christian schools, and that kind of put the Biblical Worldview Conference kind of on the map for all the other Christian schools. Well, the bad thing about that debate was Dinesh is brilliant, and he was amazing. And the conference, really the debate was like students left going, you know what, Christians are really smart and atheists are really stupid.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. That's not super helpful, because next year you're walking onto a college campus and your professors are going to be really smart, even if they don't believe in God. And so I remember going back and saying, you know what, the one thing we need to do is we need to do this again. We just need a better atheist. And so that next year, I think it was 2010 or 2011, is when we brought in Christopher Hitchens, who was the world's leading atheist. So he had just released a book, God is Not Great. There were four horsemen, right? They called them the four horsemen of the atheist, and he was kind of the main person, the main spokesperson. But we actually had him at our Biblical Worldview Conference, and he debated a professor from Baylor named Bill Dembski. And that one didn't go quite as well. If you go back and look at it, it's on our YouTube page, and I mean, literally tens of thousands of people have seen this, because Christopher Hitchens was not only super popular and famous, he also died about a year after. So he had stage 4 cancer when he came to our conference. And he died a year later. It was one of the last events that he actually did. But he was very persuasive, very winsome, has a British accent, so he sounds really smart. But it was very interesting, because we brought the students in here into the Horner, which is actually where we are right now, after the debate. And we sat down, and I just said to the students, I said, hey, what was it? What did you take away from that, right, in that debate? What was being said? What did Hitchens say that really got to you? And one of the students said, Mr. Panetti, he was just really mad at a God that doesn't exist. And I was like, that's so good, right? Like, why would you be mad if God doesn't exist, right? And then I told them the backstory about Hitchens, who had been in a debate with his brother about a year beforehand, and his brother had kind of exposed, right, that Christopher Hitchens believed in a God. He just didn't believe in a good God, because something had happened to their mother, how she had passed away, and that really kind of secured his atheism. And so anyway, it was really, really helpful for our students. And from that point on, right, that kind of put us on the map as a conference, and Christian schools every year would be like, hey, we want to come to this, what's next? And then we just kind of tackled, whatever social, political, cultural issue was kind of hot and popular in the time, right? We did a lot dealing with the issue of same-sex marriage. We did transgender ideology back in the day. I remember we brought in a guy named Walt Heyer, who in the 1970s, had transitioned and lived as a woman for about 5 or 6 years. And the amazing thing was, as he was going through that particular transition in that particular time, and he was searching for truth, he ended up finding Jesus Christ and changed his life and transitioned back to being a man. And he realized, oh my goodness, that whole ideology, that changing your gender, right, is the answer to your problems, is false and wrong. And so he became kind of a leading spokesperson really against transgender ideology. But the amazing thing about Walt Heyer is he was able to go, right, to live as a woman and then transition back to live as a man. But today, so many people who struggle with that don't get that opportunity because they undergo surgeries, and those are irreversible surgeries. And so we wrestled with that whole issue, and it's just amazing that that's still, right, a major issue in our particular culture today. Yes. And so that's really kind of where the conference started. And what we did. And then a couple of years ago, Dr. Jeremiah Johnston came on staff at both the church and the school, and has really taken over the conference and really taken it to another level, and added a few things to it that I never even envisioned. And it's now about 4,000. It's the largest Biblical Worldview Conference in the world, and it's just an amazing, amazing thing for our students.
Yes, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite memories or times that you have at the conference?
I do. I mean, lots of favorites. Usually my job was to secure the speakers, right? And so my job was to, read the books and, scour the internet and find different people who were well-spoken and could really come in and help educate our students on particular issues. But anytime I would mention, we're a private Christian school, they'd be like, you mean a college? And I'd be like, no, we're a high school, right? Junior high and high school students go to this. And they would kind of push back on it, like, I don't think I want to come. And, eventually they would come, and they were just blown away, right? And you've been here at Prestonwood, right? I mean, it's basically a college campus. And so they would come here, and they were used to, speaking at small churches or things like that, and they would walk onto our campus, and they would be blown away. And I've literally had 2 or 3 different speakers who would not take their honorarium, right? So we pay our speakers to come in, but they would come up to me and they'd say, listen, take this money and you just invest it back in this conference, because it was such a privilege to be a part of training the next generation, right? Because what you're doing here, nobody else is doing. And so most of the time when they're dealing with biblical worldview issues, they're talking to older audiences, people who know that these are important issues. But to get to talk to 14, 15, 16-year-old students and to tell them things that they need to know so that they can go on in life and make good decisions from a biblical perspective, they were just blown away. And so that's one of my favorite things, is just seeing the impact that we've actually had on the speakers as they've walked on campus and they've seen this and said, this is amazing. This is literally the best conference out there, and it's so cool that we get to talk to high school students. And then I think part of my favorite thing is just being at the school and realizing that one of our favorite things that the alumni, when they talk about PCA, right, the conference is one of their favorite memories, right? And they go back and they just talk about different people that they've seen and that they've heard. It's something we talked about beforehand. It's like, we don't take all of our students to the Biblical Worldview Conference so that we can address sensitive, more important issues from that adult perspective if we need to. And so sixth grade is as low as we've gone and taken students to it. And we haven't even taken all of our sixth graders to it. But I just remember my wife was a sixth grade teacher. And one year she said to me, why don't we take our sixth graders to this? This is so good. And they're ready for it. They think this is important. And so I just remember the first year that our sixth grade students went to it. And they get the booklet and they take notes. And they're filling that thing up, right? Left and right, notes and all the different things.
Miss Ellis always taught us to take notes.
Take notes really well. Do you remember the first conference that you went to? Were you sixth or seventh grade when you went?
I think I remember my seventh grade year. It was when the magician came.
Yes.
And that was...
Jim Monroe.
Yeah, I always remember that one. That was one of my favorites.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah. We've had him a couple times, which is a really cool story, right? If people go back and look at his story, because he actually got cancer and had a blood transfusion, right? And it's kind of an amazing thing because he talks about how the blood of another person saved his life. Yeah. Right?
And there was 3 days in between his birthday and something. And
exactly.
It was all
it was
just
so
cool.
It was like, what? Like, that's such a crazy story. Yes, but he compares that to the blood of Jesus that saved him spiritually, right? The blood of another person saved him physically. So it's a really, really cool story. Plus his magic, his illusion is really, really neat and very,
super
very
cool
fun.
For a sixth grade mind.
It is pretty cool. So, and it's fun. One of our families, the Prowse family, was so impacted. Their daughters went here and they loved the conference so much. They actually set up an endowment, right? Stephen and Diane Prowse set up an endowment to help make the conference even better. And so that's one of the things that as our parents go through and they realize, wow, this is such an amazing thing and it has such an incredible impact on the spiritual, mental development of my children, right? It's something that our parents actually want to invest in. And so back in the day, we didn't really have parents come to the conference. It was really just for students. And then it was, for all the other Christian students around. But that's one of the things that Jeremiah is really focused on is we need to get our parents here as well. So they've added a Sunday night component to it as well. Oh, yeah. We used to have it on a Thursday and Friday. Now it's a Monday and Tuesday so that those speakers who come in can come on Sunday night, right? And our parents get to actually hear from them. So a lot of parents can't take off Monday or Tuesday and take off work. But we're going to have live streaming options. So if you can't come, here in person, you can actually live stream it and watch it. And then they're actually going to package the materials and sell them to other Christian schools or homeschool groups or just families who want to buy it. And actually, I can't watch the conference, but I want to see it. And so they're going to package it all and put it together. So it's going to be a neat thing that the conference just continues to grow in its influence and its impact as we go. So that's probably some of my favorite memories over the years of different things that we've gotten to do.
Besides, selling all of the stuff to the Christian schools and allowing them to, get that information, are y'all adding anything else?
Yeah, so a lot more breakout sessions. That was the one thing that we heard from the audience, is we don't want to just sit in main sessions for hours and hours and hours. We want to be able to interact with the speakers. And so we went from, I just remember when we first started, we'd have kind of 6 speakers, and so we'd have 6 breakout sessions. Each speaker would do one. I think now we have 18 or 20 breakout sessions. And there's 3 different times. So Monday and Tuesday, there'll be 2 Monday and 1 on Tuesday. And so the speakers are going to be speaking less time on the main stage. And so that's going to be kind of a difference that they're doing this year as well. And then, I think that I added they added the Sunday evening session. They're just, the church has gotten all of its resources behind the conference as well. And so that was the one thing is, when you have a facility like the church, a 7,000 seat auditorium, and everything state of the art. It's so amazing to be able to utilize that from the school's perspective, and then all these other schools come in. Our goal was always like, could we ever fill that up and get 7,000 people? Well, we're getting closer, right? So that's one of the things that we're looking forward to, is it just grows and expands. Other Christian schools are coming in, which is kind of one of the neat things, is there's a certain distance, right? So we'll have 33 schools come in this year, and they'll basically come from Oklahoma, Louisiana. 33 other Christian schools.
Wow, that's crazy.
And a lot from Texas, right? Because Texas is a big state. So if you're coming from Midland, or if you're coming from Corpus Christi,
I don't know how far it is, like from side to side, but it's
a long way. It's a long way.
But
like schools in California, Florida, North Carolina would love to have something like this. And so they've reached out and they're sending representatives to say, hey, how do you do it? And could we take this back to our school? Could we create a Biblical Worldview Conference at our school as well? And so that's one of the things that we're working on, is how do we take this and put it in other schools and other places? And I think it's just going to only grow from here.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yes.
Is there anything specifically that you want the parents to know about the conference?
I think the biggest thing is we probably just take the conference for granted because it's just part of.
It's built in.
It's built in. It's we do it every year. But I think the concept is when you see other Christian schools come here and biblical worldview training isn't really kind of ingrained in everything that they do, they're amazed by the level of training that we're doing, by the depth of insight, by this quality of speakers. I mean, these speakers are the best of the best. That's one of the great things, right? Their books, their podcasts, right? Their YouTube videos are out there. People know who they are. And so I think our parents need to understand the quality, right, that the conference is putting in front of our students to get them equipped and ready. I think for me, the concept really is, what the conference really, why it's really important for our students. I think about a verse in James where it talks about how the Word of God is both a mirror and a window. And I think Christian schools do a really good job of reminding students that the Word of God is a mirror, right? So you look at your life and you compare it to the Word of God and you say, how do I measure up, right? Where do I fall short? There's things that need to be changed about me. But the Word of God is also a window,
where we can learn things,
right, through which I see the world around me, right? And I think there's a lot of Christian schools and even churches that don't do that very well. And so how do I look at politics, or how do I look at particular issues, right, through a biblical lens? And so this year the issue is worldview matters, and it really is that idea of the way I see the world, my worldview. It matters because part of our mission statement, right, is that we're going to train you to be influencers, right, in your homes, in your churches, in your community. And so we want you, Seven, when you graduate from here, right, we want you to go make a difference for the cause of Christ, right? And so your worldview matters in how you're going to go do that, and what college you're going to go to, and what job you're going to take, in the way that you're going to raise your family, and what you think is important, right? And so part of the conference really is the reminder that we really need to train our students, right? And they need to hear from some great people who can help take that to the next level. And I think that's one of the great things I love about it. I think the other thing I need our parents to know is there's a discount for being a PCA parent. We'll put the discount code in the show notes. It's PCA Parent 24, right? Capital PCA and then capital P. So it's PCA Parent 24, and you get a discount for it. And then you need to register, right? You need to register if you're going to be coming to it. Sunday night is there, and it's a great opportunity to hear from some of the different speakers. There's going to be childcare that's available, right? If you register, you get lunch on Monday that's free with the registration. But I just think it's something really important for our parents to understand how valuable the conference is, how well it's run and done. So if you've been to another conference, right, and even like a business conference, right, you need to come and see what the Biblical Worldview Conference is, because it's done as well as anything else that you've been to, that people are spending, right, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. This is really, really well done. And it's all hands on deck, right? It's the school and the church working together to put together an amazing biblical worldview conference that really helps train not just our students, but our whole community on some really important issues. And the people that are coming this year are, kind of a who's who of great Christian leaders and thinkers. Lee Strobel, he was here last year. The Brierleys are back. back. Peter Williams, will be here. A great English accent, so he'll be fun to listen to. Alyssa Childers, Sean McDowell, and I think this is Sean's fourth
I was going to say
Biblical
he's been here a
Worldview
couple
Conference,
times.
right? Josh McDowell's son. It's funny, he's always like everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Right? And I love Sean, so he's a great guy. It's neat. He really connects with students because he used to work at a private Christian school, right, in California. And so
he knows,
he
what
gets
it's
it.
like.
He gets the environment. He knows exactly what's going on. Jordan Sekelo, Jay Sekelo, a lot of people know the name Jay Sekelo. He's with the Center for Law and Justice, but wonderful, religious liberty attorney. Jordan is his son. They've got a great podcast. Jonathan Morrow is with a group called Impact 360 out in Georgia, deals a lot with college-age students. He'll be here. Tim Barnett, Alan Parr, who was here last year, will be back. And then our own, Jeremiah Johnston and Pastor Graham will be speaking as well. So it's a great lineup of speakers. Really, really thrilled that I got to be a part of this 20 years ago, to grow it and to develop it and to speak into it and just to participate in it. To see the different people that we've brought in and the different issues that we've wrestled with has been just a wonderful privilege and opportunity for me over the years.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I love it. So, Seven, I'm looking forward to you being there.
I'm excited too.
Taking some great notes, and you know what? We'll probably do maybe a little episode while we're there, running around during the conference. So make sure you check in with us and give us your updates on how things are going.
I shall.
So, thanks for the time with you, and thanks for spending a little time with us, just so you can interview me
Yes,
on the
of
history
course.
of the Biblical Worldview
We flipped
Conference.
the roles this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Seven.
Thank you for investing the time to listen to this episode of The Journey. Please take a minute to share with friends and family who will also benefit from this valuable resource. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast app. It is truly our blessing and honor to walk with you on The Journey.